Okay, let's begin. Welcome everybody to this PhD Wisdom talk, which I think is series 3. So we have quite a good audience today, and we're very pleased to be able to invite our president, Prof. Prem, who's going to give us some insights in how we can set out the aims and the purpose of our research so that we can understand what it is we want to target and how we can focus and make that happen. So since Prof. Prem doesn't need much of an introduction, we all know him. Let's proceed. So, Prof. Prem, up to you.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you.
We'll see you.
Yep. All right. Okay, great. Good morning to some of you. Good evening to most of you. Yeah. And welcome back to the PhD Wisdom Talk Series 3. And today we are going to discuss about
Prof, you're muted.
our research aim and objectives, and I'm going to take you through a couple of examples to get you to understand what is this all about. And I have a PowerPoint sharing, which you will have the access to the notes later on from IPS. Yeah. So let me get started with my notes here. You can see my notes. Are you all able to see my notes, my sharing?
Yes, Prof.
All right, good. Okay. So what you are doing and how you are doing it, yeah, that is your thesis, yeah, your research. So the aim of the study is what the study as a whole is seeking to achieve. Many a time you see that students get confused between the aim of the study or the general purpose or the main agenda or purpose or general objective. They get confused between these and objectives. Yeah. So your aim might be to fill up a gap in knowledge, and then you may then have smaller number of questions or objectives to be achieved along the way. Yeah? So the research question or the objectives are your means to achieve the bigger picture, that is the aim or the purpose. Yeah. Or some papers you can even see the word they use agenda, the main agenda. Yeah. So what are aims and objectives? If you build a house, for example, if you build a house without a foundation, it's pretty obvious that what will happen. Yeah, it will collapse. So your thesis is similar. If you fail to build the foundation, and your thesis just won't work. Yeah. If you write your aims and objectives clearly, then you will make your readers' life easy, especially your examiners. Yeah, when you're going for proposal defense or even your viva. So a lot of students actually fail to clearly articulate. Sometimes I've seen in my experience, when the examiners ask the question, what is the aim of your study? What is the purpose of your study? They would have written in the thesis general objective. So when the examiner is well. Yeah. So the truth is that if you struggle to explain in simple terms what your research is on and why it matters, you may need to refine your aims and objectives to make them more concise. You find that the examiners will tell you you need to rewrite your aim. You need to rewrite your objectives. Yeah. So you need to get it right. The term research aim usually refers to the main goal or overarching purpose of the research project that you are embarking. Sentences stating the aim of a project or a study are usually quite brief and to the point, straight to the point. They're brief and straight to the point. An example is to investigate factors associated with digitalization in logistics industry. Very straightforward. Yeah, factors, digitalization, where it is logistics industry. Yeah. So your research aim are the answers to the question what you are doing. So what you are doing, that will be answered by your aim of the study. And most of the time in PhD, you only have one aim. Yeah. But when you are working on a project, you may have 2 or 3 aims. Yeah. You need to clearly describe what your intentions are and what you hope to achieve. And these are your aims. Yeah. Maybe your aims may be, number 1, you can have a study that you are trying to test a theory in a new empirical setting. Yeah, you want to test Michael E. Porter's theory. Yeah, on the value chain. Or you may want to challenge the 5 forces theory by Michael E. Porter in a different setting, in a service industry. Derive new theory entirely. Maybe that could be your aim. Or to construct a new set of data. People talk about Industry 4.0. Some said 14 points, some said 12 factors, some said 9 pillars, some say 6 pillars. Yeah, but now you want to construct a new set of data in the context of Malaysia. Or you want to replicate an existing study. Yeah, there's a study conducted in Germany. You want to replicate back the study in Sri Lanka. So whatever they are, clearly articulate them and do so early. That is in your chapter 1 itself, so that you don't get stuck later on. So your research aims are the answers to questions of what you are doing. Be very explicit, straight to the point. Don't go around merry-go-round. Yeah, no. In the opening paragraph, say in simple terms, the aim of this thesis is to blah 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 blah. Think of your aims and then as a sentence of intent. First, make it clear. Get the aim first in your mind and then construct it into a sentence. So the aim of the study is actually a promise to the reader, whether the examiners or all, that you are going to do something, There's a promise that you give to your readers. If you don't make the promise clear enough, the reader won't understand or they won't be able to follow through your next couple of chapters. That is the aim. Now let us look at the objectives, or you call specific objective. What do we want to achieve? Specific objectives are short-term and narrowed in focus. They are very short, narrowed in focus. One aim can be broken down into smaller, logically connected parts to form specific objectives. Yeah. Aim is met through accomplishing all the specific objectives. So you can achieve the one aim by completing the other specific objectives. Yeah? One aim, you may have 3 or 4 specific objectives, depending on the level. So PhD level, you may have 5 specific objectives. The specific objectives are more in numbers, and they systematically address various aspects of the problem statement that you have defined earlier. Yeah. So your specific objectives will address all those areas that you wrote as a problem statement. And the key factor that is assumed to influence or cause the problem that you wrote earlier, yeah, which I have taken you through in my PhD Wisdom Talk Series 2. They should specify what a researcher will do in the study, where and for what purpose. That is specific objective. Now, example of specific objective, very simple. Most of the time, you will find people use the word to start the sentence, yeah, to address specific objectives. For example, to find out what motivates consumers to buy a product online. Yeah? To investigate the relationship between capital structure and profitability of the firm, to establish success factor regarding the adoption and use of information system, to study the effect of leadership style on employees' job satisfaction. Now, when you are writing, be a bit creative. I have seen in my experience, most of the time, the students will write research objective, they'll say, to find out. Come on, you need to be a bit creative. Maybe the first objective you say to find out. The second one is to investigate. The third is to establish, to study, to gauge, to understand, yeah, to explore, yeah, to determine here the optimal price of a product, to investigate the influence of the in-store shopping environment on impulse buying, to establish the determinants of employee involvement, to understand the causes of employee absence. Yeah. Now I'm putting both together. I'm putting the aim, yeah, I'm putting the aim and the specific objectives. Yeah, I'm putting them together. Now, assuming this is the title of your study, effectiveness of planned implementation on balanced scorecard in manufacturing environment for electrical and electronic industry in selected states of Malaysia. The study is about balanced scorecard, implementation, the sector is electrical electronic industry, and where in selected states of Malaysia. Why? Because not all the states in Malaysia has got the electrical electronic industry. Maybe Selangor, Johor, Penang, yeah, and a little bit in Perak. Okay. So the aim of the study is to assess the knowledge of top management working in electrical electronic industry, yeah, regarding the planned implementation on balanced scorecard. This is a very high level aim. Now I take this down and I break it down into a few more points which I am going to investigate. That is to assess the knowledge regarding balanced scorecard among top management. So when I conduct a study on this, I will be able to achieve this. You see, they are connected. Number 2 specific objective would be to evaluate the effect of balanced scorecard implementation on E&E manufacturing. Again, this is connected back here. Third, to associate the knowledge with selected functional manager. Again, connected here. Yeah. Why? We talk about top management, right? So, functional managers are top management guys. See that? So you have one aim and you have objectives. Research objectives, when you write them, make sure you use the SMART model. Be specific, talk in a precise and clear way about what you are going to do in your objectives. Ensure that the objectives are measurable. Yeah, it should be measurable to achieve your aim. And objectives must be achievable. You cannot give a statement which is very vague statement. Right? It must be achievable. Make sure that you aren't only ambitious about making a study, but you're also going to achieve it end of the day. If you have 5 objectives and you say you collected data and you say all the objectives cannot be achieved because in my data collection I failed. Wrong, huh? So be careful of that. When you're setting the objectives, be realistic about the objectives. Recognize the time and resource constraint that come along doing a PhD, and don't attempt to do so much. I read some thesis, some students write 13 objectives. I don't know how they're going to manage it. Yeah. So time constraint determine when each objective will need to be completed. Again, more samples for you, examples of RO, research objectives. Yeah, to find out, to study, to establish, to determine. Yeah. What is the difference between research aims and research objectives? The aim of the study describes what you hope to achieve. The objective details how you are going to achieve your aims. Remember this. This is very important. The aim of the study describes what you hope to achieve when you completed the study. The objectives detail how you are going to achieve. When you talk about digitalization, the aim of the study is to understand the key factors of digitalization in education industry. The detail of it, or the objectives are the details how you're going to achieve. So, how you're going to achieve the digitalization in higher education environment? Number 1, by introducing augmented reality and virtual reality teaching. Number 2, by having gamification in teaching. Yeah. So those are the objectives. Yeah. Let us look at another one more example. Number 1, to understand the contribution that Industry 4.0 make to national level digitalization policy. Understand the contribution of IR4 to the national level digitalization policy. Today you see most of the countries already working on digitalization policies. Yeah. So that is the aim. But then let us look at what details need to be achieved. Number 1, conduct a survey of local policymakers to solicit responses. Because you're talking about digital policy, right? So we need to understand how the local policymakers are responding to it. Are they positive? Conduct desk research of local government website to create a database for local energy policy. Interview national level. Okay, these are all the small things that you need to do in order to achieve the bigger one. Let's look at another one. Here, instead of putting the aim, I put it as main objective. Sometimes you can just put it as purpose. Sometimes you can also put it as main agenda. Yeah. Okay. To investigate how food trucks can leverage on the knowledge economy to achieve business success. Now, food truck is another business that is booming. Yeah. You find because of the low investment, low capital investment. Yeah. So you want to investigate how the food trucks can leverage on the knowledge economy, yeah, to achieve business success. That is the high level, the aim, or the main objective, or the purpose, or the agenda. Specifically, what the study wants to do, to determine if knowledge application is evident in food truck business. Is knowledge application evident in food truck business? That could be one of the study. Next, to classify features and examples of knowledge application in a food truck business. For example, while you're in the food truck business, you are not using cash terms. You're only using cards. Could be one. Yeah. To evaluate the factors that determine knowledge application in a food truck business. Yeah. What are the factors that determines knowledge application? To formulate a strategy in knowledge application that food truck business can apply. What are the strategies that you need? So these are all the specific objectives. Yeah. To determine, to classify, to evaluate, to formulate. Whereas the main aim is this. Look at this example. Another one more example for you. The research title is Effects of Organizational Culture on Business Profitability. Organizational culture and business profitability. A case study of Malaysian airline. The aim is, number one, to assess the effects of Malaysian airline organizational culture on business profitability. Very straightforward. Following research objectives would facilitate the achievement of the aim. Yeah. The following objectives will facilitate in achieving your aim here. Number one, analyze the nature of organization culture at Malaysian airline. Analyzing the culture. What are the cultures? Power distance, and so on. Identifying factors impacting Malaysian airline organizational culture. What are the factors that impacting the culture in Malaysian airline? Is leadership the culture? Leadership is the one which is impacting the culture. Or the work setting, or the company's performance. Analyzing impacts of Malaysian airline organizational culture on employee performance. So how much of influence does the culture has on individual employee performance? Providing recommendation to Malaysian Airlines strategic level management in terms of increasing the level of effectiveness of organization. After you go through the literature review and survey, you conduct, now you provide recommendation. So these are the specific objectives that you want to achieve. So these are the specific objectives. More example. Let us look at this. On this side, on my left here, you see incomplete or ineffective research objectives. Whereas here, the objectives are very good. Talking about the same title, okay? The ineffective one is study employee motivation of Coca-Cola. If you're doing a case study. Okay, better. Very specific. To study the impacts of management practices on the level of employee motivation. When you talk about employee motivation, salary has got an impact on motivation. Culture got an impact on me. Leadership got an impact. But here you're talking about management practices. On the level of employee motivation. Here just employee motivation. Here you're talking about, be specific, level of employee motivation. On a scale of 1 to 5, maybe. Now let's look at the second example. Analyze consumer behavior in catering industry. Analyze changes in consumer behavior in catering industry in the 21st century in Malaysia. You're very specific. Consumer behavior, where in catering industry, today, 21st century in Malaysia. The next one, recommend logistics industry on digitalization strategy. So to be specific, it is formulating recommendation to the logistic industry on the choice of appropriate digitalization strategy. Digitalization strategy, there are many things that can be done, but not all are applicable to the logistics industry. So here you're talking about appropriate digitalization strategy to enter. Why you need this strategy? You want to enter into a market. So Vietnam market. An example. Similarly, next example. The one which is incomplete. Analyze the impact of social media on marketing. Analyze the impact of social media marketing on business. Very vague. Incomplete. So the right way of putting it is assessing impacts of integration of, because you're talking about social media, right? Marketing, right? So integration of social media into marketing strategy on the level of brand awareness. Rather than just saying business, you talk about brand awareness. So very specific. Another one, example, finding out about time management principles used by particular manager in a company. Yeah. So the specific one is identifying main time management strategy. Here about time management principles. There could be many. So here you're talking about the main time management strategy. Maybe they are 20 or 30, but you're only looking at maybe 5. Good enough. Used by managers at hotel industry. Yeah? Very specific. Now, sometimes students get also confused between the research objective, research question, and hypothesis. I would like to make it clear here. When we talk about research aim or purpose or agenda, main agenda, it's a statement indicating the general aim or purpose of the research project. Usually a research project will have only one broad aim, like in PhD. But if you're working on a project, then you may have 2 or 3. Research objectives, they are specific statements indicating the key issues to be focused. Specific statement, key issue to be focused on in a research project. Usually a research project will have several specific research objectives. So like in a PhD, you may have minimum 5 research specific objectives. Okay. Now what about research questions? Research questions and research objectives are just that they change in the format. Where questions end up with a question mark and research objectives, they start with a 2. Yeah. So research questions, an alternative to research objectives, where the key issues to be focused on the research PhD or research study are stated in the form of question. You just put it in the form of question. They are the same research objective, but you put it in the form of research question. Very straightforward. I'll give you an example, no worries, yeah? And research hypothesis. Again, some people still confuse between research question and research hypothesis. Research hypothesis is a prediction on relationship between 2 or more variables. You're talking about relationship. Digitalization and company performance. Industry 4.0 and reimagining the business. Yeah? Employee motivation and performance, organizational performance. You're talking about relationship here. And you test the relationship. You predict and then you test the relationship. Most of the time it is the independent variable and dependent variable. Yeah, that you want to test. That is called research hypothesis. Yeah. Research question. The main or broad question may be complemented by a few investigation questions. And this must be fact-oriented, information-gathering questions, and capable of being confirmed or refuted. Questions are derived from the theoretical gap from the problem statement. This is where you take. So research questions express the research objectives in terms of questions and can be addressed by the research. It helps you to develop well-formulated specific hypotheses. From the research question, you can move on to the hypothesis that can be empirically tested. It also helps the researcher to design a study that will produce useful results. Research questions, for example, how has the new packaging affected the sales of a product? Has the new advertisement message resulted in enhanced recall? How do price and quality rate on consumers' evaluation of products? Does better automation leads to greater asset investment per dollar of output? What are the effects of downsizing on the long-range growth patterns of a company? Is the effect of participative budgeting on performance moderated by control system? You see, the research question starts with how, has, does, what, is. Yeah, these are the questions. Well, now I'd like to take you through this. As I said, that research questions are actually derived from the research objectives. They come exactly from that. It is just that you have to tweak it from objective to become a question. Like, please focus this, look at this. The research objective is to determine the level of awareness of health economics among the private hospital managers in a more developed region of Malaysia. To determine the level. Here I've changed it to what are the level of awareness. Number 2, to find out most significant determinant. To find out most significant determinants. What determinants is the most significant? To model the dimension of determinants. What are the dimensions of determinants? See that? So it's just that the research objective, you change it to become a question by having the question mark and by putting the word what, which, is, does, and so on from 2. More examples. The main aim of this study is to explore and analyze behavioral biases that drive individual investment decision in stock market. Yeah, behavioral biases that drives individuals' investment decision in stock market. That is the main aim or the purpose or the agenda, main agenda. So I've got 3 objectives and 3 research questions. Objective number 1, to study the influence of behavioral bias on individual investment decision. To study the influence level of behavioral bias. So, what is the level of behavioral bias? That's my research question. Research objective number 2, to identify the behavioral factors that influence individual investment decision. To identify behavioral factors. What are the behavioral factors? Number 3, to model the behavioral bias on investment decision. That's the objective. The question would be, what would be the model of behavioral bias on investors' decision? See that? They correlate very well. Next, further. To understand the importance of internal communication in facilitating the effective strategy execution. How does internal communication facilitate? To understand the importance of internal, so here you change it, how does internal communication? To investigate the internal communication, what are the common internal communication? To formulate an internal communication framework. What internal communication framework research question would be, what are the operational challenges in warehouse? Research objective, to investigate the benefits gained from implementing. What are the benefits gained from implementing? The same, you just copy, paste, change it from 2 to what, and then put a question mark. Research objective number 3, to identify the warehouse operational efficiency measurement. To identify warehouse operational efficiency measurement. What are the current warehouse operations efficiency? Number 4, to investigate the common efficiency measurements. What are the common warehouse operations efficiency measurements? To investigate the overall business, also overall benefits in retail logistics. What are the overall benefits in the end-to-end supply chain warehouse? Similarly, to identify factors, I'm looking at teachers' professionalism. To identify factors that contribute to teachers' professionalism and determine the one that has got the biggest impact. I want to find out factors and which has got biggest impact. Is there a significant relation between each blah blah blah? And if more than one determinants were identified, which one has got the highest impact? Does innovative teaching plays a mediating role to determine whether perceived ease of use moderates the relationship between innovative teaching? Does perceived ease of use moderate the relationship? Another example, the aim of this study is to gauge the perspective and stage of preparation towards Industry 4.0 in logistics industry in Malaysia. So the objective, number one, will be to measure the readiness of logistics industry in Malaysia towards Industrial Revolution 4.0. To measure the readiness, what is the readiness level? To assess the potential advantages of Industry 4.0 and compare with perceived benefits of logistics industry in Malaysia. Can Industry 4.0 attain the perceived benefit? To identify models and factors that contributes to the readiness. What are the factors that contribute to the readiness? So you see that I've just changed the word to become a questionnaire, and it turned out objectives become research questions. I would like to take you through some example to share with you. Okay, let's look at these. Let's pick up randomly some papers and see how this is applied. Okay, let's look at this paper. Okay, let's look at this paper. Let's see some papers, how they write. Okay, let's look at this paper. You see this word? Research agenda. You see this word, research agenda? See? Some they use this kind of words, research agenda, yeah? Let's look at another one more example here. Okay. Do you see this? The main objective of the study was to determine. You see this? So the main objective is also the aim or the purpose of the study. Every research paper you download, you will come across the main, and then you will come across these specific objectives, yeah? Okay, however, I'm just alerting you, sometimes what happens in research papers, because they are limited to 12 pages and so on, some journal papers, they limit the papers to 12 pages. So what they will do is straight away, they will talk only about the aim and they will not talk about specific objectives. Or straight away, they talk about research questions and they will not talk about research objectives. Yeah. So you will come across those kind of things, yeah? But in a PhD, it is important that you have all those things, yeah? Let's look at this one. You see here? to develop, to identify, to design, to prepare. What is this? What are these? These are all research objectives, specific objectives. Yeah. So randomly you take out any paper, you will come across definitely the aim of the study and research objectives or research questions. Definitely you will come across. Yeah. It's just that sometimes the limitation of the number of pages, they may just focus on one of it. Okay. So, well, that's what I have for you for today's sharing. And now I open for Q&A, yeah? Question and answer. Yep.
Okay, thanks, Prof. It was fascinating. Do you have any questions? You can put them in the chat or you can raise your hand. Anybody have any questions? I have a question, just because I think they're all shy. So if I ask a question, perhaps
go ahead, Prof. Jeff.
They might follow. I was just going to ask, for different types of subject, sometimes you want to have a different type of structure, isn't it? Or if you have in your head a different type of method, you might want to have a different structure when you're presenting your aims and objectives. Is that true, or do you think that actually it doesn't really matter if you have a different topic or a different area or a different method in your mind? Actually, the structure is the same in terms of, because aims and objectives are so fundamental. What do you think?
Okay. Aims and objectives are fundamental. They are fundamental. Yeah. Whatever your study, your field of study, whether engineering, science, arts, yeah. Social science, you will still have to have an aim of the study. Yeah, and as far PhD is concerned, we would encourage students to only have one aim and specific objectives. Yeah, and in my experience, yeah, in Philippines, the thesis has got only 4 chapters. The standard is 4 chapters. Well, that is their structure of doing it. And with that, what they do, they combine chapter 1 and 2 together. Yeah, they combine chapter 1 and 2 together, and they don't have objectives. They have a paradigm. And then with that paradigm, they ask research questions. They don't have objectives. They just straight away ask questions, and their study will be just answering the question, that's all. Okay, so in general, the fundamental thing is any study must have an aim. Otherwise, students will not be able to accomplish what they're trying to say. Yeah. Otherwise, they'll be like focusing on certainly one area, then moving on to another area. But towards the end, they find that they are lost. They're not really addressing the problem statement that they spelled out in chapter 1. Yeah.
Sometimes I've seen that sometimes when students are presenting their aims and objectives section, perhaps in their proposal defense or something like that, sometimes the examiners will have a different idea of the aims of the research. What do you recommend if the examiner comes along and says, you know what, you should aim to do something else?
Okay, Prof. Jeff, I've seen this.
Yeah. What's your advice, your experience of that?
Yeah, I've seen this, this is because the examiners come from different school of thoughts. They come from different school of thoughts. Some would have done their PhD in the UK, some would have done in the US, some would have done in the Malaysian context, and some would have done in Indonesian context, Philippine context. So, well, this is where the Institute of Postgraduate Studies, IPS, when we select the examiner, we have to share our structure with the examiner. We have to set the tone, yeah? So I always let know the school, IPS, that when we are appointing a lecturer, we have to give them, this is our university structure. Yeah. So like for example, in Malaysia University of Science and Technology, we encourage students and we want them to write the aim of the study or the purpose and then the specific objectives and the research question together. So we tell the examiner, this is how we want it. Yeah? And when we spell this out earlier, then the examiners will not challenge the student. They know this is their university standard that they are following. Yeah.
Okay. And perhaps I'm sure, I think you did this, but perhaps it's worth repeating because this is quite an interesting thing that many people are quite confused about, which is the difference between your research questions and your hypotheses. Can you explain that again? The difference, and it's a very important distinction, isn't it?
Yes. The research question, normally we put it in the structurally, we put it in chapter 1. That is research question. Whereas the hypothesis is only derived towards the end after a thorough literature review. Once we go through the literature review, thorough literature review, critically analyzing the literature review, then we come up with, we say, okay, hence, okay, this study will investigate the relationship between blah, blah, blah. That is after going through the literature review. And normally it will be towards the end of your chapter 2.
Yeah.
And then you take it up and put it back in your chapter 3 because you want to state what type of analysis you're going to do in order to test the hypothesis.
Yes,
yeah?
Exactly. Hypotheses are things to be tested.
Yeah,
That's the primary distinction, isn't it? Research questions are propositions to be answered.
Answered,
But,
yes. You're right. Yeah,
hypotheses are tested because they will be falsified by the evidence that you present. And normally that means it comes after, as you said correctly, comes after the literature review. And more often than not, it comes because you already, by the aims and objectives of investigate and find out and answer some questions because we feel that they're important questions to be answered, isn't it? Okay, good. Are there any questions from anybody? There are no questions. Either it's because they're very, very shy, or more likely because it was perfectly clear. I thought it was a great presentation. I'm very, very pleased to be able to moderate it and to host it again. So we hope to see you again. Do you have another one coming up later on?
Yes. Next month we have one more coming up, yeah? I'll be talking about the significance of the study, yeah? The importance of the study, who going to benefit from your study, yeah? I'll be taking them through that.
Yes, the impact of your study, that will be fascinating. That's really important, isn't it? It helps also to motivate you to do the work in the first place. It's going to have an impact. So that will be number 4 in the series. So we look forward to that. So thank you very much, Prof. Prem. We give you a virtual applause. I don't know if we have that capacity or not. Some people have asked about the slides. Yes, we will share your slides, right?
I'll email the slides to you, Jeff, and Prof. Jeff, and you can share it with your students, yeah?
Okay, so IPS will share all of the slides. We also have a post-session questionnaire, which all of the participants are invited to fill out. That will be shared now in the chat room. There it is. They will share the form there. So we will be grateful if you could spend a minute or two, it doesn't take very long, just to help us with the post-session assessment, because that helps us to make sure that these are relevant when we design the new ones, the next session, to make sure we're making them as impactful as possible. So again, Prof. Prem, thank you very much indeed. Thanks to everybody for participating and attending today. I think we have very good attendance, more than 40 people. I saw 46 people. So we have a very, very good attendance for today. I wish you all a great evening, the rest of the day, and a good weekend. And we'll see you all next month again for number 4 with Prof. Prem. So thank you all.
Bye-bye.
See you all next time. So
Yeah.
thanks, and have a great weekend, everybody. Yeah.
MUST was established in collaboration with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, otherwise known as MIT. We also inherited MIT's world-class system and culture.
Our mission today is to provide students and working adults cutting-edge education and skills that are current and relevant to industry needs and ensures 100% employability.